Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest on today's episode. Joining us on this episode, we got the one and only Joe Kotinsly, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. How's it going, Joe?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course.
That's right, Joe. You are here to talk with us about the Metal Gear series of games, in particular Metal Gear Solid series within that broader series. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about Metal Gear.
Yeah, well, plus a couple extras.
David has been playing through all these Metal Gear Solid games this year, and it's time for us to talk about it. We've also got some stuff in the news. Like the theme park's going to open next year. They gave us a date in the US, the Nintendo theme park. We've got some. David's probably excited about a new Picross game.
Oh, I've been playing it. Yeah.
And then some non-Nintendo news involving Amazon and Epic. It's going to be a whole thing. We'll talk about all that. But first, how's everybody doing right now? How's your week been?
Pretty good. Yeah, having an okay time. It was like a couple Christmas parties this past weekend. I was Santa at two different holiday parties this past weekend. I was one at my office.
On request, or
yeah, they both.
You just
asked
showed up
me
as
to be
Santa. No, we're having a Santa thing.
If I had my way, I wouldn't be Santa again in my fucking life. Okay, but these people begged me and they pleaded. At work, they had me be Santa. I passed out Secret Santa gifts, and then I was actually Santa's brother, Dave Claus, at the Fallout Theater Christmas party. To give out some awards, so that was kind of fun. Also saw Avatar 2 this past week. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, and oh boy, I loved it. It was really good. I really enjoyed it a lot.
How's that high frame rate?
I did not see it in the high frame rate. The theater I had did not have high frame rate. So I'm going to have to see it again with my family and see if we can find one that pops back and forth between 24 and 48 frames.
I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
But I don't know, man. I don't know why they would go back and forth. I feel like it would make it more apparent that it's changing. You know what I mean?
Is that what happens in it? Does it switch?
Yeah, it's not a consistent. It's like just the action and underwater shots.
I read a thing with James Cameron where he like pans all the people that have used it full time. He's like, it's a tool, not a, it's like a. I'm really curious to see if it's how noticeable that is. And stuff.
It takes me out of it too, like when movies switch between like a normal aspect ratio and then IMAX and go back and forth from shot to shot. You know what I mean? I imagine it's like that. I don't know why filmmakers do that. I don't know. People are weird. But anyway, good movie. Get really high and go see it in 3D. What about y'all?
I'm good over here. I've had the next 2 weeks off, and so I'm like redoing my office. I'm gonna like declutter. I'm cleaning up some wires. I'm like labeling all of my my power cables and my rat's nest of cables, and so trying to feel like I have control a little bit, try to like slow down. So that's what I'm up to. That's where my mind is.
I like your CRT behind you.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll show you something if we're on stream. I'm gonna reach over to this box. I'm gonna pull out this VHS from some dude's VHS collection in the early 2000s. This one has movie ?
That's definitely porn, dude.
That's definitely porn.
Well, Matt's a VHS guy now. What about you, Patrick? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I got a lot. It's kind of funny because a lot of people are off work, like you just said, Matt. But I've got a lot of work right now. I'm just writing for this one game, and this other game I'm writing for sent me a bunch of work. So I'm real busy.
Nice. I didn't know you were working on two games.
Well, I've been on and off working on this mobile game. And they just, I hadn't heard from them in a while, and they sent me a bunch of work. So
is that like a good busy feeling? Like
it's generally a good busy feeling. It's just that, my wife and my son are off. And so like, it's a little harder maybe, but it's fine.
You like your life better when your wife and your son aren't around?
Well, if I have work to do, like it's just easier to do it when, everybody's like at school and work.
Yeah.
But, I would like to be off, but it's great. Things are great.
I feel you.
How about you, Joe? What's going on?
I'm in the same boat. Surprisingly busy this time of year. It's funny you say that. I actually went to campus today to work, and the only people that were in the department were the ones with children. So I'm assuming that they were also abandoning their families to get a bit of peace and quiet before the end of the year.
Yeah. If you got it, flaunt it. That's what I always say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Before we get in the news, last week we talked about the Game Awards, but I guess nobody had a comment about that. But we did get some comments. The McDonald's lawsuit came up, which which is commonly used as an example of a frivolous lawsuit, and I think we just didn't get into this. Matthew was about to, and I also knew a little bit about this too. But Summer on our Discord pointed out that truth is that's like one of those. It gets talked about as the prime example of a frivolous lawsuit, but it actually wasn't a frivolous lawsuit, and it was kind of a smear campaign. Thank you for correcting us on that, and it's good for us to say that.
Yeah, for the record, I was referring to the platonic idea of the McDonald's lawsuit,
well,
not the actual burns on the woman's body. Yes,
it's like one of those things of one of those things they just like it's now in the lexicon is that right? It's like hacking, and people are like, well, hacking is technically when you're good at computers. Like, sorry, hacking is now.
It's Jurassic Park going through a 3D space to find the door locks.
And then Karosetta mentioned Red versus Blue because our guest last week was voice actor for that, right?
Yeah. He was all over that show. Miles. Yeah. Yeah, he's done tons of that Rooster Teeth stuff. There's no shortage of Miles content out there on the internet.
So if you two want to be mentioned on our next episode or maybe one of the future ones, I'm not sure. We got some holiday episodes coming up. Send us a note. If you have any comments on anything we say, we appreciate that kind of, we love hearing from people. And then also, share our podcast somewhere online. Please remember to stop by the YouTube channel. If you're not watching it, you should. And like and subscribe over there. And we'll do some gaming news and rumors, in particular Nintendo stuff. Super Nintendo World, they've announced that the Hollywood park, I think there's one coming to Florida as well, right? Is going to open in February 2023. So that's pretty soon. The Universal Studios park in Hollywood, Nintendo themed, coming very soon.
Yeah.
Permanent fixture, or is this sort of like a fleeting?
Yeah, I think it's meant to be. Yeah.
Permanent.
Wow.
That is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole big park.
Yeah.
You'd assume that stuff's usually reserved just for Japan.
There is one there now, but I think they're starting to build them onto the Universal parks, because I guess like that's what they're doing. They're also releasing the movie, I suppose.
Yeah, the timing does kind of coincide with the movie and everything. I just incidentally was showing my son because he hadn't seen the new Mario movie trailer scene from the Game Awards, and something came up on YouTube after of somebody just walking around the Japan park, so we watched it, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, looks fun.
Yeah. I'm kind of this is too fast. I was I'm not prepared to go yet. I mean, I'm going to. We just gotta now we have to actually plan it. We have to actually figure out how we're all gonna get there, because we gotta all go as a Switch Headz group, right? I mean, come on. I'm going by myself to the goddamn Nintendo park.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's supposed to be pretty similar to the one in Japan. So if you're curious, there are videos on YouTube you can go watch of people just walking through the park and filming all of it. I don't know if there's anything else about that. But
great stuff. February 17th.
Nintendo put out its year in review is what they're calling it. This is kind of I don't know if Spotify started it, but everybody calls these things that happen now the Spotify Wrapped. So you can, go look and see what games you played the most on your Nintendo Switch and theoretically all kinds of cool stats, though this year's Nintendo one kind of sucks, at least in comparison to previous years and other things. I feel like in previous years they gave you cool monthly breakdowns and more hours information, and this one's kind of your most played games and then your most played game per month and stuff, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's got kind of weird genre breakdowns too, right? But it's kind of random. I think it's different for different people what they get.
Yeah, the genre breakdown in theory sounds cool, but just like I don't trust their analysis. I mean, genres are hard, right? Like but yeah. Like mine has like 4% strategy, 6% role playing, you know, like and then a large percent multiplayer, but
and then like 90% for you is like ink based multiplayer online game.
Well, yeah, a large part is shooter and multiplayer and action, which I think that's where I'm like, what is that all?
But that shooter takes strategy.
Right, and I role played while I played.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh my god!
There's also an adventure. Well, we can go on.
Yeah,
I'm done.
But yeah, it's a little bummer that this year's wasn't quite as cool, but you know, there's always next year.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I think all of us just had a lot of Splatoon because we all played like 100 hours of Splatoon the first week it came out. So it was a lot of Splatoon for me as well.
I wanted to talk about this next one because I thought it was kind of funny. The official like Nintendo YouTube, or one of the official Nintendo YouTube channels, is going to have this YouTube series called Kids Play, which is going to be like, I guess the channel is called Play Nintendo. Is going to be like family friendly competitions, like involving Switch games. So this is the Smash tournament that Nintendo is supporting, is 8-year-olds playing on YouTube. Man. I think it probably won't be that much.
This is really going to go a long way in those FTC rulings that Nintendo is a viable platform for Call of Duty.
I just thought that was interesting.
I remember whenever Nintendo was doing the like, it was like around that time they were doing the Splatoon like concert in Japan. I forget what Nintendo Live, I guess it is. They also did some Splatoon tournaments, and all in Japan. And the one that I tuned in, it was like 4 to 6-year-olds playing Splatoon. And I guess that's just what they consider to be the competitive scene officially.
Speaking of Splatoon and competitions, there is, you know how like they do those Mario Kart online tournaments and stuff, there is like a Splatoon Turf War one that they do through like the website Battlefy or whatever.
Yeah, like I saw that's on the 30th of this month,
is,
right?
Yeah, there is one, and they have done those previously, and so there is stuff like that, I guess, but it's not. But moving on, this is David, you're gonna have to explain this. There's a new Picross game. I don't understand why it's called Pig Bits versus Uzbor. How do you even say these names? What the heck are
I'm
Pig
having
Bits?
a hard time just knowing how to say it myself.
Pig Bits versus Uzboros. 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 Try my best here.
I'll take over from here, gang. It's a new.
I got it.
So this game has been out in Japan for a while. It just got localized. It's by Jupiter, the guys who make like the actual Picross games. Have been making Picross games since like the Game Boy. This game is called Picross X: Pick Bits versus Uzboros, and it's weird as fuck. This is like not a normal Picross game. I've been playing it all day. If I work with you and you're listening to this podcast, don't tell my boss that I just said that. But I've been completely addicted to this thing. It's very strange. It's really hard for me to even wrap my head around what this game is. It's like only 5x5 Picross puzzles. So it's like the simplest kinds of puzzles, but you don't even like make pictures with it. You're just like trying to do them as fast as possible. And they like, it almost reminds me of like Picross mixed with WarioWare. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it'll give you specific like twists on it. Like, oh, and this one, there's a bomb on it and you have to not touch the bomb while you're doing it. Or the hints go away after a certain amount of time. Or it's like in black and white or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like all these like weird little things. And at the end of it, there's this like worm monster that I guess is called an Uzboros, and then Pick Bits, which are like, I guess the squares in Picross have personalities now. And you like have to like get a bunch of them to throw them at the big worm demon and make him not eat your friends. And if that sounds like it makes no sense. Just know I've been playing this game all day and I barely understand what's going on. But it's very, very fun. And it's really cool. And honestly, this kind of feels a bit like Picross's like Tetris 99 moment, right? Because it's like it's making the game super active and really fast, and it's got like 8-player online co-op that you can play with other people as well, which I've only really scratched the surface of. I played like one match and the person I was playing with got really frustrated and quit. So like I'm not exactly sure how all that works. So this is a developing story. But for the Picross heads out there, which I know is mostly just me, it's a very exciting day to see something new come of this franchise instead of just getting a new number at the end of Picross S, which is what we've been getting up to this point.
But instead of a number, we got Pickbits versus
Uzboros.
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 The font makes it look like pig bits.
Yeah, it's not. It's not pig. It's not pig bits.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's pick bits.
Oh, I love that joke. That's funny.
It would be funny if it was pig Ross, though. It makes no sense. It's really bizarre. Because I've been watching like videos of this. Because I've known this game has existed for a while in Japan, but it's always been in Japanese. And I've been trying to like figure out what the fuck is going on in this game. And I thought it being translated to English would make me understand it anymore, and it does not. But it's very fun and interesting, and I'll be playing this for a while. I can already tell.
Well, we also got a new Fire Emblem Engage trailer. They've been given lots of these trailers. This time it's focused on what's called Somniel, which is I don't know what you call it, like the headquarters, the home base you go to.
Like the monastery of this game.
Very similar to the monastery in Three Houses. Where you go back to between battles and that sort of thing. They showed off all the things you can do there. And they showed off a little cat dog that poops crystals, which was the highlight for me. There's a little godlike pet called Sami you take care of, and they're like, it might give you a surprise, and it goes, and crystals came out.
Man, I'm gonna have to take your word for that one, Patrick.
Don't take my word for it. Watch the video.
No, I'm good. They put out like 30 fucking trailers for this game. I don't need to watch any more promotional material.
Yeah, coming very soon. We're almost to January. Maybe not. I don't know. What is it today? What is time?
We're closer to the release of Fire Emblem Engage than we are to the opening of Nintendo World Theme Park in Hollywood, California.
This is true. We also, in JRPG news, also have the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters definitely coming to the Switch as well as the PlayStation. I guess just the PS4. I don't know. I keep seeing PS4 in places. So
yeah.
So coming
Great
out sometime.
remasters, by the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you played any of these Pixel remasters?
I played 4, 5, and 6 when they came out on iOS.
Right,
and actually,
right.
Square Enix kind of did a underhanded thing here. When they originally released, this would have been back in like 2013, they put them on mobile.
Yeah.
And they had this god-awful skin on them it was sort of like updated, like more pastels and like smooth textures.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they charged like $20 a piece for each game. And then what they did was when they came out with the Pixel remasters, they removed that from the Apple Store, but then they put the new Pixel remasters on, and now they're charging $20 again for each of them. So even if you bought them before, you have to rebuy 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, now if you got them on mobile and now you want them on your Switch or on console, you got to rebuy them again as well. Like, yeah, that's pretty clear what they were getting at there, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it coincided, I guess, the announcement sort of with the the 35th anniversary of the series, right? The first Final Fantasy game came out almost exactly 35 years ago from when we're recording this episode. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to see them come to the Switch. They're also coming. There's like a special edition, which has a whole bunch of stuff in it that's like $260 or something ridiculous. It's very expensive for all these. It comes with like a vinyl and a book and a bunch of figurines or something. I don't know. It's definitely Square Enix way overcharges for special editions. Yeah, they love to do that. And then, but other than that, there's also just a cartridge version of the game that's also being released, but for limited quantities. That's releasing for $75. So that's kind of shitty too. I wish it was 60. You know what I mean? Like $10 a game seems pretty fair, but I think that I think on Switch they're going for 15 a pop digitally, and then all together they're 75. So if you want that physical copy, you might want to snag that now before it's all gone.
I kind of want to play one or two of these, but I don't know that I want to fork over $15 a pop or $75.
Yeah.
If you were to play any one of them, play 5. A lot of people say 6, but 5 is by far the superior out of the 1 through 6 that have been remastered. But that's just my humble opinion.
You mean specifically the remaster is good,
yes.
or just in general?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from our Discord as well. I think a lot of people have been saying that 5 is a good one to pick up. Yeah, 6 is definitely the one that everybody talks about, right? I've never played any of these all the way through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I've played 4 and 6 like through different just versions that have released on like Game Boy Advance or whatever, but I never finished them. I'm definitely excited to do it, and I've got Final Fantasy 7 through 10 on my Switch, so I got to get 1 through 6. Fucking just so I can have all the icons in a row. You know what I mean? That's all I really need them for. Yeah.
No, that's a good tip, because 5 I've never beaten 5. I've played some of it, but so maybe that's the one that's worth it for me.
Hopefully they fix the dreadful font that these games have. I know on like if you have a Steam Deck, that might be the best way to get them, because there are mods that you can install within like 10 minutes, have like new pixel looking font that is way better. But hopefully these actually have some improvements, is what I'm saying.
What is the current font? What's the bad font look like? Is it just like look like an additional layer on top of the like remastered kind of pixelated?
Yeah,
stuff?
it's like a vector like Arial style font. It just looks like really
out of place.
Yeah, it looks out of place and bad and like really thin and just uninspired. Not that you need like an inspired font for your games, but just like something that doesn't look like absolute
trash. Matches the tone.
Yeah.
Something more like Comic Sans.
Yeah, Comic Sans.
Well, now that Avatar's around, Papyrus.
Yeah, that's right. Avatar 2. Avatar 2.
I was going to say Papyrus.
It does use a yellow papyrus in Avatar 2 in the year 2022, using papyrus for the subtitles font. Pretty intense.
Moving away from Nintendo for our last few news items, it was announced that Amazon Games, the well-known publisher of games, is working with Crystal Dynamics to put out the next Tomb Raider title. So I think Crystal Dynamics is in that weird spot, right, where like speaking of Square, right, like they used to be part of Square Enix and they were sold off, right,
to Embracer Group. And
so this is what we're seeing now. Amazon is going to come in and help them get that game out. That's interesting collaboration. I'll put it that way. I don't know how I feel about it.
It's interesting. It's multi-platform. No mention of Luna. They're publishing it.
Well, it'll definitely be on Luna, right? If it's published by Amazon.
Yeah, if Luna's still around, I don't know.
Yeah, if it's still around is the operating term there. Yeah. I'm trying to see what other games has Amazon published.
That's kind of what it's just like, I mean, their own game, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, Lost Ark.
That's
New World is the big one.
Other ones.
New
but
World,
is that
Lost Ark, and Blue Protocol, which is next year.
Yeah, so that hasn't happened.
These are all PC games. You know what I mean? I guess Blue Protocol, that was at the Game Awards. I remember seeing that at the Game Awards. But yeah, it's like, but that's a free-to-play game. So that's like going to be a digital-only thing. So I'm wondering what Amazon's like publishing is going to be like for like a physical multi-plat game. It's pretty weird. This is definitely the biggest thing they've ever done.
It's interesting. It's like, wonder what their motive is. It's like to collect that data, understand how it works, understand what it looks like to publish someone else's game, so then they can learn how to make their own and publish their own stuff.
Yeah.
I think
didn't they like cancel a bunch of titles and scrap some of their development teams and stuff? So that's where maybe they're like something wasn't working, and like you said, now they're going to use this as a way to watch Crystal Dynamics make a game or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's what they do best. They're like, yeah, we'll help you. And then they collect all the data. Then they use that data for their own benefit.
It's just interesting that, because this is really Embracer Group's call here, right? To go with Amazon for the publisher for this, now that they own Crystal Dynamics. It's just interesting that they went with Amazon versus like THQ Nordic, which is what they've been using for the majority of the games that they've released, right? Under the tutelage of Embracer Group. So it's just really weird decision. I guess money. I guess they've probably, this will probably be the biggest game that they ship, right? Up to this point. I mean, it's probably bigger than Battle for Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob SquarePants. You know what I mean? So I'm sure this is going to make more money than that. So it's just interesting to see how it all shakes out.
And maybe it's just like a Tomb Raider thing. Like if they did like a remaster of like a Legacy of Kain game, then that would maybe be under THQ Nordic.
That would definitely be THQ Nordic.
Yeah, maybe it's just the size and the scope of maybe what they want Tomb Raider to be.
Yeah.
Well, in further Amazon news, it's been announced that Amazon Prime Video is going to have a live action God of War series. So another major gaming company collaboration with Amazon there. The Sony, title God of War is going to get I don't know. What do y'all think about a God of War show? Do you think
Matt?
I think that's going to succeed?
Charlize Theron, please.
As Kratos?
Yeah,
as Kratos.
She was great as Furiosa. Let's
Kratos.
bring her as Kratos.
I can't abide by that.
Let's challenge gender norms and let's just go full Furiosa as Kratos. That's my pitch.
Kratos. But I
pig butts.
But I don't give a fuck about God of War because I haven't played the first game. I hear they're incredible. I have it on my Steam Deck. I haven't started it yet. Maybe once I actually play through that game, I'll be like more excited for this, right? I mean, I played the original games. I liked those. But like I don't really care that much. That being said, I'm incredibly excited for this show. If nothing else, just for the pedigree of the creators of this show. You've got Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby are producing and executive, I think they're show running this show. And those guys, I will watch anything they do. If you're not familiar with them, they wrote Children of Men and were a big driving force behind making that get turned into a movie. And then also The Expanse. They were the creators of the television show The Expanse. They also wrote the first Iron Man movie as well. So they've got an insane pedigree of like really, really good, solid material and really good writing. So anything that's in their hands, I'm going to watch day one. I've been a huge fan of their shit. So that's what's got me really excited about this. But there's a lot more we need to know before I think most people get on board with this, namely, I think who is going to be cast, right? Other than Charlize Theron. But I can see you about to say it, man.
I'm thinking it. Listen, if you say it out loud, you will it to the universe, maybe we'll see it. Come on, give her a part.
Who other than Charlize Theron, who would be y'all's pick for Kratos?
In line with that, I could see Uma Thurman. I'm obviously
all
thinking,
women.
I'm obviously thinking Kill Bill.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, let's do it.
But no, I mean, it goes to show you how far like video game adaptions or movie adaptions of video games have come in the past 10 years. I mean, I don't know if you remember House of the Dead remake movie. And that same guy, he did Far Cry too. Bao.
You a bull? Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. That guy fucking sucks.
Who do you think?
I've been seeing people online say Triple H.
Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley?
Yeah, the wrestler. He's got the body for it, and he fucking looks like him. Slap a beard on that guy. He doesn't say too much in the games, right? Doesn't really say that much. Probably this could be his big acting moment,
You're right. He does have the look.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't think of anybody though.
I'm having trouble.
Yeah. That's okay. We can move on.
We'll move on. Last bit of news. Last week we talked about Epic getting a new lawsuit. Well, sort of an old new lawsuit in Canada. Well, they've just settled a couple of complaints in the US. Some really expensive ones, or rather expensive settlements that the FTC they settled with. So I guess $275 million on one of them and $245 million on another. One of them is related to them apparently collecting data, like we just talked about with Amazon, for kids, for players under the age of 13 without notifying their parents. And the other one was about refunding consumers who were tricked into making unwanted charges because of their quote unquote dark patterns and billing practices to trick players into making charges again without parental consent. So I don't know. That's some big numbers. I don't know if it means a lot. I don't know. I mean, there's settlements, right? So Epic just wanted to pay this amount of money rather than fight it or whatever. I don't know how FTC complaints work, but wow.
$520 million is $500 million.
Yeah. You just got that sitting around in your legal fund to pay lawsuit settlements.
Right? I mean, that's why we're all lawyers, the payday is just so big. But yeah, no, that's crazy, man. I mean, I think Epic also just recently took down a bunch of their older legacy games from their services as well, and they stopped supporting them online. And I imagine they're just like now being like, okay, well, we just lost $500 million. Time to tighten the belt buckle a little bit wherever we can. Right. So we'll see.
Yeah, looking to see how much their revenue was in the past couple of years. It's pretty inconsistent, but roughly $840 million in 2021 in consumer spending, but it might be even more. But that might be like Epic Game Store.
Yeah, that might not like include like licensing of Unreal Engine or any of this extra kind of stuff. Yeah.
Or all the Fortnite licensing for toys and stuff.
Yeah. Man, fucking money, man. Sorry, sometimes I just think about how much money things make.
All right, here's some better numbers.
It sounds like I'm high.
Listen up, everyone. I know you love money. Numbers. Here we go.
Looked at a dollar bill.
Epic Games revenues in 2021 was $5.7 billion.
Ooh,
okay,
Jesus.
so yeah, there you go.
So that's a drop in the pan.
Yeah, basically.
It's about a drop in the pan, or about a tenth of their annual worth.
Yikes. Scary stuff to think about numbers that big. I don't understand it. Well, that does it then for the news. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about the Metal Gear Solid games and the sort of Metal Gear series and all that kind of stuff after this break. All right, we're back, and this week we are talking about Metal Gear Solid. I honestly feel like I need to toss it over to you, David. You've been playing the Metal Gear Solid games this year. That's the reason we're talking about it. Do you want to give a little intro to what inspired this conversation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of say a little bit of what my experience has been. I mean, this is by no means a new franchise. I feel like most people have played these games up to this point. I don't know. Have all of us played at least one Metal Gear Solid game? Have you ever played the franchise, Patrick?
I think I played the first one back. Maybe I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but I definitely played one in college, but not like a ton. Like I played it some. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Well, it's at least part of gaming lexicon, right? The gaming like history, or the pantheon of like well-known franchises, right? Especially with Konami stuff. With like, I feel it's like Silent Hill, Castlevania, and like Metal Gear are like their kind of big three, right? And but for me, I'd never played any of these before, and it always had been a blind spot for me. So at the beginning of this year, I kind of decided I'm gonna just play through all the fucking games, and I'm going to stream them all on Twitch for the first time ever. So I did that. I actually didn't start with the original game. I started with Twin Snakes, which is the GameCube remake of the first game, which already I think some people would be mad about that. A lot of people don't like that game. I thought it was incredible, but I played through that game, played through 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, and 5. And did that all on Twitch this year and really enjoyed it. And this is kind of my first experience. And I thought it'd be really cool to kind of like talk about some of like what it was, like what my experience was like playing through these games for the first time. But Joe, I wanted to ask you before we get any further, how did you get into these games? And then also, I know you might have a bit of a story about kind of what it is that you do now in academia and how that might have been inspired by these games.
Well, it's an interesting story. So what I tell people in my professional life is, I got into Middle Eastern history because of the Iraq War and grew up watching sectarian violence on TV. It's actually a much simpler answer. Metal Gear Solid 5, the trailer came out when I was a junior in college. And I was a history major at the time, and we had to pick our thesis topic that we wanted to write about. And the idea of Soviet-occupied Afghanistan, I thought was just so incredibly interesting. And I actually wrote my thesis on that. And when I went into my master's program, told my professor, hey, I'd like to continue working on this. And he said to me, that's great, but Afghanistan is actually South Asia. It is not in the Middle East. So I was like, oh. So I ended up switching that topic to Iraq. But I'm currently a lecturer and PhD student at the University of Texas at Austin. I teach Arabic and Middle Eastern history more broadly. Mm-hmm. And I am doing this because of Metal Gear Solid, actually.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, man. I think that's one of the best things about this franchise is that it's like it could be like super camp at times and be super like up its own ass and, you know, inspired by a million different movies and kind of like ripping off like this and that. But at the end of the day, it's also like got a lot to say about nuclear proliferation and like how the military industrial complex like affects countries in the Middle East and stuff like that. So it's a really like interesting franchise to look at because it can be so silly and yet inspire so many people for like real world stuff, right?
There are numerous people in the field of nuclear non-proliferation now that cite Metal Gear Solid as what got them into what they do.
Oh yeah.
Before we go too deep, give a quick elevator pitch of like the Metal Gear games.
I don't know if I could.
Like for
what about you, Joe?
If someone who's like listening right now,
character and you know the themes and how you play.
If you have only heard of Metal Gear, I think of course, tactical espionage action. But really, what you're doing is you're watching a really interesting story, and you're occasionally playing it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty accurate.
Stealth action, right? Like,
you basically play through these games as Solid Snake or some variant of somebody who's named Snake. Basically, it gets pretty complicated when you break it down. But you're being hired by either some private military firm or like nations governments to like infiltrate some sort of like base or gather information or stuff like that. So it's a little bit different. These games are a little bit different from like your modern or regular military shooters in that like a lot of times the best ways to play these games is to avoid violence altogether and actually like sneak by undetected through stuff. So I think that's part of the reason why I never played these games that much when I was a kid is because I thought that just sounded incredibly boring. Right. I was like, I am not into the idea of that. I played some other stealth games. I played a little bit of fucking what's the one? The Tom Clancy Splinter Cell. And I was like, man, this game is boring as shit. I'm just like walking around and I have to like be patient. And I hate patience, and stuff like that, right? But then
you got all these guns, and they're not going to pew themselves.
Exactly. But then you're right, Joe. What I didn't realize is that really what it is you're watching a really long movie and occasionally doing a little bit of sneaking in between cutscenes, which turned out to be excellent for streaming on Twitch, by the way.
I played Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation, and like in high school, it was one of the most quoted quote of video games for me. Like there's a scene when you're playing against the boss Psycho Mantis, and in the PlayStation version, Psycho Mantis can read your memory card. And that like blew my mind when I was a teenager. Like this character can read the other Konami games that I've been playing. And so throughout high school.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, you like Castlevania, don't you? And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, how do you know that I worked on that TV show?
How do they know? What the fuck? So whenever anyone says Metal Gear Solid, the quote that comes into my head instantly is, I can read your mind. Is like what I hear over and over whenever anyone says it and brings it up, or if I overhear, like if I'm at an airport and someone says Metal Gear Solid, it's like, I can read your mind. Just because I said that so much, and my friends and my friend group would just quote that over and over again.
Yeah. When I was playing Twin Snakes, I was playing on an emulator because that's a GameCube game, the remake of it. And because I didn't have any other save file, or actually no, I had one other save file, and it was for Super Smash Brothers Melee. So it was like, you like Super Smash Brothers Melee, don't you? It made me laugh, yeah. Which is not available on PlayStation 1, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, that's about a good intro for it, I think.
The first game, was called Metal Gear and came out, I mean, decently long ago, right? Like 1987
on the MSX.
Yeah. Also on the NES and other things. So it's got a long history, and that was the Hideo Kojima's first game, right? Or at least first game where he was the director or
like the main director. Yeah. And he did the first game, and which is good. And it's funny going back and looking at those original MSX games, which like you said, were also released on the NES, but in far inferior versions. But especially Metal Gear 2, the Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake is so much like Metal Gear Solid 1. Like Metal Gear Solid 1 like almost feels like a beat for beat like remake of Metal Gear 2.
Oh, it's almost 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is it's one of those few series where the MSX 1 and 2, like when you boot up Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation, it assumes that you know everything that happened in these games, like, and with no backstory whatsoever.
Yeah.
It just assumes that you had an MSX in the 80s and you know exactly what is going on, which is wild.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. But I was struck by just like how much of the gameplay of the modern games is there in these like top-down 2D games. Not like holding people up, but all the sneaking is there. The boss fights are in there. The way that like everything kind of like works out, like that items, rations, the way that like rations work to refill your health after you get killed. Like all that kind of stuff was like there already in the game, which is pretty crazy to see. And that's like, I think part of the reason why I love doing this year so much, like playing all these games back to back to back, like they have all these improvements between each one and they get quality of life improvements and all that kind of stuff. But the fundamental game is like still the same. And it really makes the whole thing feel like one big long game that you're playing throughout all of it. And I thought that was really impressive and a really great way to enjoy this series.
Yeah. And like the game does such a good job of being this like very realistic, quote unquote, like this story driven, character driven narrative, but also the gameplay elements are so satisfying. When you pick up items, it makes like nice sound effects, or like when you use items or scroll through the menus or like scroll through in some of the voice communication, it is still like this tactical war shooter, but also this has really satisfying gameplay in its sound design.
Yeah. That's a good point. And those sounds are like consistent throughout all the games too.
Yeah.
Like and it almost like feels nostalgic by the time you're like playing one of the later games. You know what I mean? Even though I just played it earlier in the year.
One of my favorite things is when you're out in the wild and someone's phone goes off and it's the codec from Metal Gear Solid, and you clearly can hear that, and it's like, okay, you're cool. Like
you mean like in real life?
Yeah, in real life, you'll hear that. That's happened to me on more than one occasion. I'll be like, I know everything about you. About you having that ringtone.
You're a PhD student in Middle Eastern Studies. Oh man, yeah. I think we should probably mention really briefly before we get into like individual games. Just Police Knots and Snatcher. were two of the Kojima games that he started doing kind of in between the Metal Gear game, the original two Metal Gear games, and the Metal Gear Solid franchise. And those were games that even further like cemented this style of storytelling, right? Like I was playing a little bit of Police Knots earlier this year, and it's like just the way that it's these really long anime cutscenes and the world that he builds and all this kind of stuff. Like it almost feels like those games are like in the Metal Gear universe, you know what I mean? And that he like puts the same kind of like care and attention into all that kind of stuff. And they almost feel more like visual novels than they do games at times.
Yeah, I think it's actually in Police Knots. Like Meryl is in that. And you see her with the foxhound tattoo. And it's a callback. And on those earlier titles, you really start to see like him come into his own there. And these are all things that slowly get pushed forward. Like he constantly is doing callbacks to these things. I can't remember if it was Snatch or Police Knots, but that had a cyborg ninja in it too. Like
yeah. It's just really, I like in games that we have like auteur, like pop star creators, you know what I mean? And Kojima is definitely like one of them, right? Like, Kojima came out at the Game Awards and everybody loses their fucking shit, right? And it's like, and he's constantly posting on Twitter him just like hanging out with all these like actors and celebrities and shit, and everybody like wants to meet Kojima, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's not like, I feel like that's one of the things that like doesn't happen quite as much in games as it should, you know what I mean? Like we've got like superstars like Shigeru Miyamoto, or even, Corey, Barlog, like, to a lesser extent, but it's like, but someone who's like a celebrity like that, it's like a lot harder to come by. And, you have to really have like a really formidable like body of work in order to get to that point. And I love that about the dude. I like that he's kind of a larger than life persona. So much so that when Shinzo Abe was assassinated, people kept thinking it was Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, they actually had to come out with a tweet saying like, "Hey, we had nothing to do with the assassination."
Anyway,
well, yeah. Do you want to start talking about specifically the Metal Gear Solid games and go through them? Is that the next step?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of just to like touch on some of the things that we like about each of them, like Metal Gear Solid 1. That's a game that I tried to start like a whole bunch of times. Like you said, Joe, the game just kind of like puts you in it and does not hold your hand at the beginning. And you kind of just have to fucking sneak around and figure out what you're doing as you're going. Right. So it was a game that I've started a bunch of times and never like really got into. But I think like streaming forced myself to like actually play through the game, and I got past the first hour, and then I was like completely hooked, and I was immediately understood what everybody loves so much about this franchise. I think so much of it comes down to like the characters, right, and the acting and the voice acting, and just I think the thing that I love most about this game in particular, but also this entire franchise, is that everybody in this game talks like they are a Wikipedia article. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's like everybody has all these factoids that they like to like express. You know what I mean? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it was like everybody talks in a very unique voice that is very clearly Kojima's writing voice.
No, absolutely. I think of the DARPA chief when you're in the thing, and he's like, someone will mention something casually, and he's like, "Oh." Snake says a PAL code, and he's like, "Oh, you mean a personal access link? What's necessary to disable a nuclear weapon?" And the crazy part about that is like all of this stuff is real. Like these are real terms that they're talking about. Like, so you have a character called Decoy Octopus on the one hand, and on the other, it's a completely serious, grounded in reality big things that they're talking about. It's just so surreal.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of design that's always very, very fascinating and like appealed to my brain at the time and continues to this day, is like the DARPA chief in that prison scene is talking to Snake, the character, and then you as the player to inform you kind of all at once. So it's this tongue-in-cheek kind of dialogue with the voice acting, with the cinematic moves and the flourish in the voice acting and the flourish of the animation that kind of that creates this very alluring cinematic package. Makes it so fun.
Yeah, I agree. And then Twin Snakes takes it even further, right? Where I think a lot of the reason why people really hate the GameCube remake of Twin Snakes is that Metal Gear Solid 1 came out in a world that was before the movie The Matrix was released. And then Twin Snakes came out after The Matrix was released. And you could just tell from the cutscenes, like they add all this crazy bullet time and him like jumping over shit in slow motion. And, you know, it's like very much like John Woo, like Kung Fu movie, like Matrix inspired in the cinematics, which adds to that like camp nature of it, right? So it's like it always kind of rides this line between like super serious like espionage shit and like the silliest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. And that's kind of like what makes that world so special, I think. I think it's also worth mentioning too that all of these games, if you want to play them right now, good fucking luck. It's really hard to play these games in a modern setting. Now, I think that will change, and we'll talk about some of that at the very end of this. I think that there are plans to re-release these games, but as of the current time being, like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and Peace Walker used to all be available digitally on storefronts. Those have all been pulled, and over the past year, they've all been pulled. I'm sure now that I've actually finished this entire year of doing this, they'll all just release now that I've finished, like as soon as this comes out, it's like, I was nailed to the cross, so you guys wouldn't have to worry about going to hell.
Thank you.
I'm Jesus, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it was like playing these games was a nightmare. Like this game I actually emulated, right? It was a GameCube emulator. I played this on my Xbox Series S, which is back there. But then the other games I couldn't buy digitally, and then I couldn't use my friend's. My friend has a copy of the discs, but I couldn't put that in my Series S because it's a digital only console. So I had to like borrow a friend's Xbox One in order to like play the next two games in the franchise. I had to borrow a PS3 in order to play Metal Gear Solid 4 because my PS3 stopped reading discs and wouldn't load the like 112 gigabyte file or whatever that it was, once I figured out how to download it and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a huge pain in the ass to actually play these games. And I really hope that a lot of the rumors about some of these remakes or collections, like HD collections, are true. And those come to modern consoles pretty soon. But Joe, what else about Metal Gear Solid 1 sticks out to you? I mean, it's a seminal game.
So one of the interesting things about every single game in the series is that it really is a product of its time. If you look at the overall plot, whenever you watch these commentaries, people always talk about the gene, meme, or scene themes across them.
Yeah.
But actually going a little bit deeper than that, Metal Gear Solid 1 really is an upgrade of Solid Snake 2 or Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. And that was published in 89. So right at the end of the Cold War, one of the biggest discussions happening everywhere, especially in Japan, because the major theme of these games is nuclear weapons. And Japan's legacy with nuclear weapons, it's huge. It's something that is still actively in the modern day zeitgeist. And that's why it's such a strong non-nuclear proliferation message throughout the game. But Metal Gear Solid 1 really is a commentary on that post-Cold War disarmament. Mm-hmm. What is going to happen with all these nuclear weapons that are just sitting around?
That we've been like building up just to aim at each other.
Exactly. That is something that carries out through that entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that really sticks with me. And I think for each of these games that we go through, I do kind of want to give this little background behind the overall thinking. At least what's going on in the international stage has kind of shaped the plot and theme, at least in my mind.
Right.
But so Metal Gear Solid 1, nuclear non-proliferation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on. And that milieu is important when looking at these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it ends with a giant mech fight, and you punch your brother, who's also your clone. Look, I don't think that we have time to get into all the plot of these games because like, and also I don't know that I could. Like, I've just played through all these games this past year, and it's like really, really difficult for me to understand like what's even happening because everybody gets like double and triple crossed constantly, and it's a very complicated plot that I kind of just let wash over me in a wave of entertainment.
Well, there's a reason why every lore video out there is 7 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty intense. But yeah, I guess let's move on to Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, which came out on the PlayStation 2 originally. And this was like kind of a huge technical showcase for the PlayStation 2 when it released. Nobody had really seen anything quite like it. I think to this day, it's aged really, really well. I played the HD version that was released later, but other than it being in HD, there wasn't much else that was really added to this version of the game. It's pretty amazing. Joe, is this one of your favorites in the franchise?
In terms of story, absolutely. You constantly hear this is the first postmodern video game. In that, it came out right as the internet boom was happening, late 90s. And that's the recurring theme throughout it. What are we going to do with all of this information? In terms of gameplay, it definitely was a massive step forward. I think this is the first one where we see like hold ups, and whatnot, and your first where you can switch to first person. So that was really cool. And this is kind of where you start to see like that. Really, I think it had like fully interactive environments, like you could shoot the bottles and stuff. So for 2001, I mean that's amazing.
Yeah, you could. It's so much shit that you can interact with in the world, like. And I think that's true about all these games too. Like something that's amazing about it is that you could play the game through and then you could really play that game over and over and over again in a million different ways. And they just basically thought of everything. I think where that peaked was really Metal Gear Solid 3. That's where it was like, there's just like literally like thousands of ways that you could even beat a boss, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But in this game, it was like all of a sudden, you can set traps or leave out porno magazines or hide in a thing or do whatever to distract people and to get to your goal, right? And this game was also crazy at the time because everybody thought that you'd be playing as Solid Snake the entire way through, and after the first mission you do not play as Snake for the rest of the game, and it really pissed people off when this game came out.
And it's important to remember like the sheer hype for this game when it came out. I mean, I think Zone of the Enders had people were buying Zone of the Enders just so they could get the demo for this game, which is insane.
Yeah. I think there was a Halo game that had one of those too. Or there was, what was it, Gears that had a Halo demo or something like that?
It was one of the open world 3D superhero games. Crackdown. Crackdown had that.
Crackdown had a Halo. Yeah. That reminds me of that, But no, this game is incredible, and Raiden is a great character. I think, like from a modern playthrough, like me playing it for the first time, like of course, I think knowing that it was coming because it had been part of the cultural zeitgeist forever, like lessened that impact on me a little bit. But I definitely see why people were pissed off, like back in the day. Like he's got like long blonde hair. He's sort of like effeminate. I think everybody was like used to this like big burly man like being their main character in Solid Snake, right? And then having to play as this character like really threw people off and really upset a lot of people. But it's like they also like are keenly aware of that in the game and put him into all these situations where like there's a whole point in this game where you're completely buck ass naked and you're constantly like running around with your hand covering your junk, and then like to dodge you do these cartwheels where you like spread your legs super wide like in the air as you're turning. So they knew what they were doing, dude. Yeah.
That's a ballsy decision to do that too. This is one of the most hype games ever. People want to play as Solid Snake, and then Kojima just goes and does this bait and switch.
You're denying the player fantasy. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to have this larger meta narrative about, player control and that we're not superheroes. Like it was insane.
Yeah. And I mean, and that was kind of the big caveat of that game, right? Is like, this game also came out post 9/11. I think there was a lot in this game that they ended up scrapping because of that, because of the terrorist attacks. Like there was a whole, like, I think it was supposed to be like a nuke that goes off in New York or something like that they cut from the game. And they weren't even sure that they were going to release the game at all. I think Hideo Kojima just wanted to cancel the whole thing, but he was pressured by Konami to put it out. But like those themes you're talking about, like it really starts to be like, hey, this is all a game, and starts to play with this kind of like meta idea of like what a game actually is. And they work it into the story in a really, really interesting way.
Metal Gear Solid 3, is there any big points here?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one because all of a sudden it kind of like broke away from the continuity of what we had been knowing so far with the storyline, all from the original Metal Gear games. And in this game, you play as Big Boss, who is like the main bad guy of the franchise, and it takes place in like the 60s, right? So I think in this game, the idea was like, if the other ones are kind of inspired by like Mission Impossible and like, you know, stealth action shit, this is like James Bond, right? Or like, but still very like has a lot to do with the military and still has a lot to do with the military industrial complex. But it was like, this is the most like adventure, like Metal Gear game up to this point, right? And it all takes place in the jungle instead of inside factories and stuff like that, right?
It was clearly a response to the backlash. Like, you know, Metal Gear Solid 2 is highly revered now as this prescient like video game that amazing social commentary. But at the time, I mean, people fucking hated that game. Like they didn't understand it. They thought it was such a thing. And 3 really was Kojima trying to do a return to form, which is interesting, David. You say like, you know, it's kind of this breakaway, but at the same time, it is this return to like, you're playing as Snake. And,
right.
You know, for our viewers here, if you've never, one of the things to really press in is it's all the same character model. Like every single one is the exact same character model, but they're different people.
Yeah. There's a lot of cloning going on.
Yeah.
Les Enfants Terribles, which is, I'm not even going to fucking get into it, but it's like, there's a lot of cloning, basically.
Well, you could do that when you have the Philosopher's Legacy.
Yeah, that's true, right? And this game was also like, if you want to get into like the themes of these games, I feel like this one was obviously like a lot of like adventure and espionage, and you're running through the jungle and you're like killing animals and eating them and stuff like that. And it has that kind of Bond vibe where there's, you know, there's like kind of a femme fatale character who like you meet up with and all this sort of stuff. But I do think that this game, the themes of this game really have to do for me with like globalization and like the Illuminati and kind of like the creation of like these kind of secret societies that kind of control governments and stuff like that. And that's really where like, I mean, those themes were always a part of this franchise, but this is the game that really like set in stone kind of like how all of that worked inside this world. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You just hit the nail on the head. I mean, if the parallel I think of is the Da Vinci Code and all those Dan Brown books that came out at the time. I mean, these were immensely popular.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think of Snake Eater? I mean, a lot of people say this is the best game in the franchise.
I think it's probably one of my favorite Metal Gear games. I think Snake Eater, the theme song of Snake Eater, is probably one of my most listened to video game songs, like singles from a video game franchise. I love the theme song of Snake Eater. It's so fucking good. I've seen it a couple times live at Video Games Live with Tommy Tallarico.
I was gonna say our boy Tommy Tallarico.
Yeah. He's performed. He gets out on a guitar and fucking just wails.
That's so awesome.
It's so funny. But it's great. It's a great song. I think they really up the boss characters are like over the top. There's like a bee guy and like an alligator person. They just really ham it up on all of the bosses. And they continue to ham it up in the rest of the franchise. But a Snake Eater, I think, is a great blend of like tactical action adventure game, but also just like the story and the narrative. I think this takes place. Does it take place in Vietnam?
1964. It's the eve of not the eve, just the immediate wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I feel like this one's like campier than the other ones in a lot of ways, but then this was also when they were like getting really good at those cutscenes. You know what I mean? Like towards the end of this game, like the final kind of confrontation you have with the boss, like between you and the boss. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a whole like ending sequence that I think at the time like blew people away. You know what I mean? Like it really gets super emotional and like and the way that it plays out too and the consequences that a lot of these actions have, like towards the end. Like no one had ever seen anything like this before in a game. And I think it's still super, super impressive to this day. I was like kind of blown away when I was playing it.
Closest I've ever come to crying. I mean, I might have actually cried during that. Like it's just an incredibly, don't want to spoil, but incredibly powerful moment. For me at least, if there's one Metal Gear Solid game to play, it is 3.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when we're talking about the different ways that you could beat levels as well. That is the most in this game. Like, I think there's actually a boss. What's the old man called?
The End.
Yeah, the End. So there's a boss who's like a sniper in this game. And the way that you are meant to beat it is basically he's hiding in the woods and you have to like wait, or you have to like use your sound device to like hear kind of where he is, and then you find out about where he is, and then you kind of be patient and snipe from afar. There's a bunch of different ways that you can beat him, but that's kind of the main way. But there's also, you can just not play the game for a month, and because the guy is so old, he'll just die. Like if you start playing the game and then wait a month and then come back, a month has passed and the guy just dies because he's so old. So like stuff like that,
Which I mean, you can even, in fact, I had to do this because it's a really hard fight if you do it straight up. And I think in an interview, Kojima originally said that he wanted this to be a long, drawn out sniper battle, like over the course of like 7-8 hours. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no one's going to do that.
Exactly.
So you can go into your system settings and turn the clock forward. And you'll log back in, you'll get a cutscene, and it's like, oh, I guess he died of old age.
So stuff like that I find really great. But yeah, no, this is an incredible game. And I think you're right. If you're gonna play any of these, this is probably the most like contained of an experience and story, and it was like kind of like the peak of that PS2 era of Metal Gear Solid games.
Well, we've got several more on our list here, David, but we've also, just for time, I don't know if you want to hit the big points of these so that we have plenty of time to talk about overarching stuff and close out with some of the future speculation and that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah. Don't fucking rush me, Patrick. But also, no, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 4, we should definitely talk about. This is the PS3 exclusive game. This is like, I think, the only of these games that is impossible to play on any kind of modern system. It only ever released on PS3. This is the game where, like, when people like make jokes about how you're really watching a movie with a little bit of gameplay in between, this is the one they're talking about. Like, this game consistently has like hour and a half long cutscenes, right? Just like long periods where you don't do anything, right? But it's also incredible. Like this game is absolutely brilliant. Like this picks back up after Metal Gear Solid 2, but it's like a good bit further into the future. And this is kind of where they started bringing the Middle East into the story as well, right?
The Middle East.
Yeah. I think at the time they originally were going to set it in real countries, but we're getting like pushback from people. And can you explain some of this?
So this, again, how each of these games are a product of their time. This game came out, I want to say 2007 or 8. Mm-hmm. But the important part, this is when the Iraq War was really going downhill for the United States and the coalition of the willing more generally. But the overarching theme of this game is the military-industrial complex. Why? This was a couple years after those Blackwater private military contractors got strung up in the middle of Fallujah.
Right.
And that certainly had an impact on this game. And I can't help but laugh every single time where I think it's the beginning briefing where it's like, where's Liquid Snake at? And he's like, oh, he's in the Middle East. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it's great.
The nebulous Middle East.
Yeah.
That's what they refer to it as. But yeah, I mean, the story of this one, you are playing as like Solid Snake, like the same character from 1 and 2, but the kind of like nano machines, I guess, that you have inside your body, or what is it, Fox dye, a virus that's released in Metal Gear Solid 1 causes you to like age rapidly. So your old Snake in this game is the character that you play as technically. And I think Liquid Snake survived, but it's his like life essence that lives inside the hand of Revolver Ocelot. It's very bizarre. And it's
actually, David, it's because Revolver Ocelot tricked himself into psychotherapy to convince himself that he was actually Liquid Snake or something like. I mean, this is really where the entire series goes off the rails.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you start to see. I mean, it goes. They will never make another video game like this. It is just truly one of those things that it was a product of its time, and it's a gem because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely incredible. It's definitely worth playing, and it really feels like a really good conclusion to the whole series, which is funny because the series does continue on from here. But it's like it is kind of like the de facto like end of the Metal Gear Solid story, right? This is like the furthest in the continuity. It is kind of, and it's a really great wrap up, especially if you've played the previous games, right? But I really, really hope they can somehow figure out how to port this game in the future and actually get it onto more modern consoles, because I don't know, it would just be such a shame if this was only ever on PS3 and not on any future systems.
And just to tack on, it does occasionally, if you are looking to play this, it occasionally will pop up on PlayStation Now. To stream, but you're really at the mercy of when that is, and it's usually only for a month at a time.
And if you want to stream games,
And Metal Gear Solid 4 holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest cutscene in a video game with 71 minutes of uninterrupted cutscene.
Yeah, that's total insanity. Great game though, dude. I recommend it. I really enjoyed this one a ton. We can kind of briefly go through the next game, which is Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Peace Walker, and for the record as well, I didn't play all the PSP Metal Gear Solid games. A lot of those are not technically in the continuity of games and were not directed by Hideo Kojima. The only games that I actually like played were ones that were in the core story. Peace Walker, though, is one of them. This game was released for the PlayStation Portable. And this is where this is the biggest jump in style of gameplay from any of the other games up to this point. This all of a sudden turned into a more like mission-based game. I think that was because it was on a portable console and it was for like smaller bite-sized gaming sessions. But this game also has a really great story. This takes place in the 70s and it follows Big Boss again. So this Peace Walker is really like a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3. It's, I mean, I don't know what much there is to say about this game. I think this one's probably my least favorite out of all of them, but it's still an excellent game and it's definitely worth playing if you want to get the full story. I did really enjoy this game a lot. And it almost feels more like Phantom Pain. It's like Peace Walker and Phantom Pain and Metal Gear Solid 5 feel like one big long game to me, because a lot of what they did in Phantom Pain was kind of like growing on the kind of concepts that they built up in Peace Walker. But have you played Peace Walker, Joe?
I have. I think we were actually talking about this. It's really one of those, like, if you're on a bus game, if you have it on a portable, this is something that you pick up 10, 15 minutes, you play a mission, you put it back down, and you go back to it. And you really see it carry over into 5.
Yeah. We could kind of breeze over this one just for the sake of time, but
this is a redheaded stepchild of the series.
For sure, but definitely required reading. Like it's definitely worth playing, and I would definitely recommend it. But
you will be confused as hell going into 5 if you have not played Peace Walker.
Yeah, because it picks up like directly where Peace Walker leaves off, right? But that kind of moves us on to 5, which is 5 is kind of 2 games in one. It's Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. Ground Zeroes was released about a year, I believe, before the Phantom Pain was, and it was kind of the connective tissue between Peace Walker and Phantom Pain. It takes place, I think, again during the 70s, or maybe like the early 80s.
1975 for Ground Zeroes.
For Ground Zeroes, okay, yeah. So it's kind of picking up where that left off. A a lot of it takes place with these characters that you met in Cuba, and they're being held hostage, and you have to kind of like figure out what's going on there, and then that leads into the full game. But this is where the series kind of started to go open world, right? With Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain. They kind of seamlessly, in my opinion, moved the game into an open world environment. I think the major thing that gets lost in translation with Phantom Pain is that a lot of what we knew the series for up to this point was like the story and the cutscenes and these like long movies in between things. And I feel like a lot of that kind of went to the wayside in this game. But I will say Phantom Pain has like by far the best gameplay out of any of these games. Like, I think all of the time that Kojima would have put into like the writing and the cutscenes and the acting and all the stuff, like he put that energy into making this one of like the smoothest games I've ever played in my life. Absolutely 100% addicting. It uses that mission structure without feeling quite as like ham-fisted as Peace Walker does. What do you think about this game, Joe? Like, where does this fall on your list of like favorites?
I agree with you. I mean, this is probably, it has a very low barrier to entry because it's amazing gameplay. The story is there, but it was clearly rushed. I mean, you can't really talk about this game without talking about the internal politics at Konami at the time. I mean, this game came out as Silent Hills was being canceled.
Right. PT.
And I just want to point this out. I mean, there was a very long period there in the lead up to Metal Gear Solid 5 getting released that there were hundreds and hundreds of people that firmly believed that Metal Gear Solid 5 was actually PT.
Right.
And this was all some sort of huge bait and switch by Konami, which really goes to speak for Kojima and like what he's done and like this kind of mythical persona around him. To people think that, oh, you know, he's so meta with his games that he faked his own firing at Konami and faked getting this game canceled. Yeah, it is. Like,
it's fucking crazy. Like, and that's, I mean, we haven't really even touched on that, but it's like in the lead up to all these games that he's released, he always put out like 3 or 4 like trailers that were super like cryptic and hypnotic and like you weren't really sure what was going on. So I think and this game was no different, right? Like the Phantom Pain for a while was just a game that was being released and it wasn't being billed as a Metal Gear Solid game, but then it was kind of like revealed that it was Metal Gear Solid 5. And I think this is a game he didn't even want to make. You know, I think this is a game that Konami was like, we need another Metal Gear Solid game. And we want to do this, and this with it. And then they gave him a huge bag of money and he was like, all right, I'll go back one more time. But I feel like so many of these games, he's like, this is the last Metal Gear Solid game I'm ever going to make. You know? Kind of reminds me of Sakurai with Smash, right? He's always like, this is my, like Brawl was supposed to be his last Smash. And he's made so many since then, right? I think that's why Sakurai and Kojima are friends. That's the only reason. But no, this game is incredible. What do you think about this game, Matt?
Man, I just think about that year before Phantom Pain came out when Ground Zeroes came out. It was a small section of, you know, the story. I put so many hours into Ground Zeroes because the open world sandbox of the game engine was just so fun. And it was just like one mission when you say pause, or you can hop into the back of a truck, or you can sneak under the truck, or you can sneak around tents. I just really loved the exploration of Ground Zeroes because it was like self-contained. It didn't have like a big open world. It reminds me of like the Great Plateau and Breath of the Wild, where it's like small enough to where you can learn from your mistakes, the mistakes that you have. They don't have a big impact on the gameplay. But it is contained, and so you have clear goals, but room enough so you can experiment without risking too much. And just that feeling, I played Ground Zeroes a lot just because it was so fun. I lost a little bit when I switched over to Phantom Pain just because it's so much bigger and larger. And there's just a lot more to do. I just found myself kind of breezing through some of the missions, but the feeling of Ground Zeroes it felt like one of the last like big type of demos that we've had before a big release. That first year is great. I got a lot of great memories, but also Phantom Pain is a great fucking game. incredible reveals throughout the game, and how it connects to the larger narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just as hard to follow as any of the other ones. Even if the story is a little bit lighter this go around, right? But it does do some good stuff to like tie all of the plot lines, even though like the stuff that's later in the continuity with this earlier continuity, like it does a good job, like kind of introducing you to some characters that you met in Metal Gear Solid 1 and stuff like that, right? And so it was a pretty amazing story. Hard for me to like believe that it's over and this is the last one they'll ever make, because it is such a strange game, right? And so different from the others. But I think Konami just hates Kojima and like wants nothing to do with him and like really doesn't want to work with him again. And Konami is the rights holder of the games, right? So it's like at this point, it's like who knows if we'll ever really see another game in this franchise. Because they did one game past this with Metal Gear Survive, right, which was like universally panned and hated, and Kojima had nothing to do with it. And I think it's like he really is the secret sauce of this franchise that like understands it and like gets what it needs to be, right?
I think as of right now, a safe bet to make would be you're definitely going to see a Blue Point remake of Metal Gear Solid at some point.
Well, there's a big rumor that 3 is being remade, right? Yeah, which makes a lot of sense because it is like the first story in the kind of continuity, right? So maybe they just start doing them kind of in that order. I mean, you wouldn't have to redo Phantom Pain because it still feels so modern and fresh. But no, that game was really amazing. I played it through on my Steam Deck and it ran perfectly on my Steam Deck. I was very happy about that. Do have to give one quick shout out to Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance before we end. This is not a Kojima directed game. This is a Platinum game that is serves as kind of a soft sequel, I guess, to Metal Gear Solid 4. Stars Raiden, and the whole game you just chop things up into little bits with your sword, and it is very fucking fun. That was kind of what I ended my year with, even though it's not like technically, I don't know if it's canon or not, but certainly feels like it. But it's big and dumb, and if you like Bayonetta, you would love Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. You've probably heard of it at this point. It's kind of a meme at this point, but yeah, we did it. Those are the games that I played through this year. One of the all-time greats. I can't believe I never played them up until this point. I just had my mind blown every single one of these games that I played.
David, once we get the Metal Gear movie, who's going to play Solid Snake?
Well, you know who is, right?
Yeah.
He's cast. Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac, yeah.
Yeah.
For Jordan Voight Roberts is directing, although I don't know. I don't know if that's still in limbo.
I didn't know this. This is who got casted?
Yeah, he's playing Solid Snake. Jordan Voight Roberts is directing. He's the guy who directed Kong Skull Island, which is a weird pick for a director. I mean, if I had my druthers, it'd just be the Wachowskis doing a Metal Gear movie. I think they'd fucking kill it, to be honest. But yeah, that will be happening at some point. I think it might be in development hell. I don't know if they've shot anything yet.
It's been, I mean, they announced it, 5-6 years ago now, and he got cast 2 years ago, so who the hell knows? But
yeah,
hopefully they don't screw it up.
Oscar Isaac's still talking about it in interviews and stuff like that, so it's definitely happening at some point. But what do you think about the kind of future of this series, Joe? Do you think that we'll ever see the series come back?
Absolutely, because there is money to be made there. And I think especially the constant callbacks we're seeing to Metal Gear Rising, which was like, that was another bastard child of the series, but it's just constantly getting memified. And, people are constantly rediscovering these games based off of just our own cultural moment. Look at Metal Gear Solid 2, disinformation, the idea of, conspiracy theories. It constantly is drawing in new audiences. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
Yeah. I just wonder if they'd be able to play nice, or if they want to do a new game without Kojima, right?
I could see it without Kojima.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would take over?
Not even going to venture a guess.
We'll see. I mean, Konami's finally making games again, right? I mean, like they're like working with other studios rather. Like we've got Silent Hills, like a bunch of Silent Hill games coming out soon. So it definitely would make sense. There've been a lot of rumors, like we said, about like, you know, the games were removed from digital storefronts because they had a lot of like archival footage in them of like military stuff or nuclear bases and stuff like that. That then the rights for that archival footage lapsed, and so they removed all the games from the stores. But they keep saying that they're about to come back, right? Like we figured out the blah blah blah, and it's coming back soon, but they haven't said when. So I feel like they're waiting for some kind of like big announcement to be like, kind of like what they did with Silent Hill. Like we're doing the remake, we're also doing this new game, and we're doing this side game, and here are all the teams that are working on them, and it's all coming out this year, right? So I think at some point, probably in 2023, we'll hear about these games coming back to digital storefronts and whatever they're making for the remakes. I just hope that includes, I just hope they can patch up whatever the issues they have between Konami and Kojima, because I think like I wouldn't want to see anybody else tackle this franchise. I don't think I'd want to play a game by anybody else. I mean, Kojima clearly has moved on to Death Stranding and is doing kind of his own series of games now with his own studio. But I would love to see him come back to this, and seeing him this year, which was like a big anniversary of this franchise, like talk very, very fondly about these games, and you can tell his heart's still in it, and he still loves this franchise. And I think he would love to make another one if people would play nice with the IP.
Well, if the Iranians can sell weapons to the Israelis, then I definitely think that Kojima and Konami can make up together. I had to throw a history reference in there for those of you playing at home. The Iran-Contra affair.
Thank you very much. You really put that into perspective. Thank you, Joe.
Well, awesome. I think that's a great place to end then, right?
Did you enjoy this episode, Patrick?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it very much. I am ignorant about all of these games. I guess I need to try at least one or two of these.
Patrick, I implore you to play every single one of these games next year and stream all of them.
Follow in your footsteps.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the games that we've been playing recently. All right, well, I honestly don't have much to say here. I haven't been playing too many games except for Splatoon 3. So I might have played some like match 3 type game called Salazar that
Let's go
introduced me to, but that's about it that's about it for me. Lots of Splatoon 3. I take little Splatoon 3 breaks while I'm working.
Yeah. Nice.
I'll go next. Mine's also pretty quick. Always Halo. Always playing Halo. My dudes played Mario Kart after Secret Santa. Switch Headz Secret Santa. That was really fun to play.
That was fun.
All those new modes where you can have combos of items is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played a little bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, we were you there when we did the Lightning and Star?
Oh, I wasn't there. I was there for like bombs. What was it? Bombs and Stars or something?
It was bombs, stars, blue shells, and
gold mushrooms.
And gold mushrooms. Yeah. That was totally chaotic, but really fun. Like more fun than I was expecting it to be.
So many bombs all the time. It was so fun.
Yeah. No, and it was fun. We were all like on voice chat too. And it was like the round started and we were racing, and then as soon as we hit the first boxes, we were like, here it comes. We were just waiting for everybody to start blowing up.
The game mode does great for me because I'm not like a great Mario Kart player, and David, you are, and the other people we're playing with are really good at this game. So it's hard for me to play if I'm doing terrible. But if we're going to play with items, which levels the playing field, I find more enjoyment in that.
Yeah, the Stars and Lightning round we did was actually really fun. That was the first thing my mind went to when I heard about custom items, because when you have a star, you don't get affected by the lightning. So it becomes this mad dash to like pop your star off before somebody in the back fires the lightning out, right? And that was actually really fun. I do think that if we're going to do that again, I'd want to cut it with coins as well, because just having only star in the front,
everybody's
like,
got it kind of.
Yeah, it's just as long as you like press L as soon
sense.
as you get it, it like helps. But I think if we added coins, that would be a good like kind of stabilizer and like kind of even that out a little bit. But I was like, damn, it actually added a lot of like strategy into the races, which was really cool. I'm glad that worked out.
So man, so fun. Just like getting a crazy 8 and bombs, just like throwing 8 bombs all at once.
Just getting 8 bombs.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah, but then if you touch anything, all 8 of those bombs explode and you're fucked.
Yeah, you're fucked. I love the chaos.
Yeah.
David, what have you been playing?
What have I been playing? Live Alive. I finished Live Alive, or at least I got a bad ending in Live Alive. I've got a little bit more I need to do to get the good ending in that game, but we did our JRPG club, and we talked about that. Also, we didn't really shout out at the top, but we did our Secret Santa recently as well, which was really, really awesome, and that was really cool. We just did. We did. It was like Live Alive JRPG club discussion, Secret Santa, Mario Kart, all like in a row. It was like 5 hours hanging out with the Switch Headz online. That was super, super fun. So that was really good. I've been playing that Picross X Pick Bits versus Osboros all day today, pretty much. I've been really, really enjoying that. It's a fucking blast. Tetris 99 just had a Maximus Cup. So I played some of that drunkenly the other night, actually, and fucking unlocked the theme anyway. And then been playing some stuff on my Steam Deck as well. Mission in Snowdrift Land, that Christmas game I was telling you guys about. I beat the game and beat almost everything there is to do except for the bonus stage at the end, which I, for the life of me, cannot fucking beat, and it's driving me absolutely insane. So hopefully by the time of Christmas, I can actually beat this bonus level, but it is ridiculously hard. I'm having such a hard time with it, but that's fine. I started playing The Witness. Matt?
Oh, I heard that was good.
Yes.
Tell me, what do you think?
I like it. I'm not too far into it. I just kind of like fired it up because I'm kind of in between games and looking for like what next to start. And I love the puzzles in it. And it's great on Steam Deck because you've got the kind of track pads, which can kind of mirror like trackball movements, and it makes doing the puzzles really seamless, going in and out of it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying The Witness so far.
Man, The Witness is one of the few games that triggers the part of my brain, like when you're in an escape room, you're trying to like figure things from different perspectives, trying to find like puzzle structures. The Witness, man, just incredible.
Yeah, and I'm a Myst fan, and I love like environmental puzzles, which there are some in The Witness. The Witness is very much inspired by Myst, but I feel like it's like the Myst like puzzles are just kind of very light and are dispersed between these like grid puzzles that you play, right? And they're kind of more just like connective tissue between them, right? Which I think I like more of the environmental stuff. So maybe even like a game like Scorn's going to be more my speed than The Witness. But I am enjoying it because I like puzzle shit, right? Like I like Picross stuff too. So I'm definitely having a really good time with it. And then lastly, I'll give a little shout out. I did start Chained Echoes. I did start that on Game Pass the other day. That I think that's going to be our next JRPG Club game.
I didn't realize it's on Game Pass.
Oh yeah, sure is. It's on Game Pass and Switch and Steam as well. So I played a little bit of that. But then lastly, I just bought this because it was on sale the other day. It was like $4.50. Jedi Fallen Order was on super deep discount on Steam. And I picked that game up and started playing it again. And that's such a fucking good game. It's super, super fun. And just like really impressive what they're able to do with the story in that game. So I've been playing a little bit of that as well. But that's been it for me. And I say that's it. Like, that's not a lot. That's actually a lot of games. I've been jumping around ADHD brain now that I'm done with a big RPG. What about you, Joe? You been playing anything cool recently?
Well, I was being a basic bitch there for a while and playing Modern Warfare 2. I think I put about probably almost 100 hours into that.
Oh wow.
I am tired of sweating my dick off every time I turn on my PlayStation. So, which I thought would be a break, but I put Sekiro on, which is my second playthrough, and God, that game is brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I really need to start playing like
Went from one sweaty multiplayer game to like a sweaty single player game.
Yeah, the PvE.
it.
I mean, it. You know, that's probably my favorite FromSoft game. I mean, it's just the fast pace of the combat, the emphasis on attacking. I mean, if any of y'all have played it, that battle with Junichiro, like at the top of the tower in like the middle of the game. I mean, that is just one of the best boss fights I have ever played in a video game. I mean, it's really just a perfect vertical slice of that game. So as much as I've almost shattered my controller, like I've been having a blast playing through that again.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it for the episode. Joe, thank you so much for coming on and helping us talk about Metal Gear Solid and putting it in historical context. That was really cool, actually.
No, it was a pleasure. I am going to selfishly plug myself. If Middle Eastern history is something that interests you, you can read a recent journal article I published called Brave New World Order. You can find that online if you search that, and my last name, Joe Kotinsly.
Yeah. Definitely look up his stuff. He's a very smart man, Joe.
Yeah.
It might not seem like it on the podcast.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it. My behavior belies the complexity.
There you go. He used belies. He's so smart.
Well, thanks, Joe. And also thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, you can find me as PDYX most places.
Yeah, Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much ever on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Joe? Where can people find you online?
You can follow me at Joe Kotinsly on Twitter.
Very good. That's simple. First and last name. We love that.
There we go.
You're the only Joe Kotinsly in the world.
Yeah, as it were.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. If you'd like to find our show on social media, you can find us at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We got a website, switchheads.com, and we got our Discord, man. Join the fucking Discord. If you like all this talk about JRPG Club and Secret Santas and shit, we do this stuff every year. It's such a blast. We have such an incredible community. Please join us on there. We'll have the links to the Discord and our Facebook group in the description of this video on YouTube or on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us right now. And as a reminder, make sure you like and subscribe us on YouTube, man. We put out really great video content on YouTube now. Look at the video version of the podcast. It's the best way to watch the podcast. Your friends will all be jealous. That's going to do it for this episode on the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Thanks to Matt and Patrick for allowing me to do this. It was nice to kind of wrap up my year of Metal Gear with this episode, and really great to have you on here, Joe, because I know you're so passionate about it. And you tuned into a lot of my streams, and I really enjoyed always watching you pop into my Twitch channel.
It's the least I can do.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. I think next week is our award show. Is that right? I think next year we're doing our fourth annual Golden Headz Awards. How many years have we been doing this fucking show? I am not even sure. But either way, we're doing our annual Golden Headz Awards next week, where we're going to be giving all of our favorite games of the year,
including one of the best community member is going to one of you. I'm just kidding. I'm making that.
Is that true?
No,
Dude,
I'm not.
That's how you
I would
know
never
people
do
to
that.
fight.
I would never do
We
that.
should do that now.
I would never do
really
that.
good.
No.
Most
Oh
improved
my
community.
Well, that goes to Kyle. But yeah, anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know what that means. Don't at me. But anyway, we're gonna be back with our Golden Headz Award episode next week. I can't wait to do that. That's always a super fun episode. And also, I think this is our last episode before Christmas. So if you're out there celebrating Christmas, hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And you guys all just, get lots of cool video games as gifts, spread joy and love, and eat a big turkey or whatever the fuck you do during this time. Folks, that's going to do it. We love you very much. You know the drill. We'll see you next week. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Be kind to yourself. We love you. Bye-bye.